Okay, now we're going to look at modeling tutorial number 2. It is important that you look at both the modeling tutorials, number 1 and number 2. I do have an earlier video that goes through number 1 where we're talking about wheels and axles. In this one, we're going to be talking about the body shape. And so I really highly encourage you to follow the tutorial itself as you build your car. And you'll have a lot less frustrations with the tools. So in the engineering tab is where we're going to start. You have a blank setup. I indicated that earlier. Let's actually look at the parameters of the body material. I have available in the lab balsa blanks and bass blanks. You go ahead and choose which of those two you want in there, basswood or balsa wood. Balsa wood is significantly lighter, and you can see that when you compare the two just in the overall mass. The density of basswood is a lot higher when we're looking at that. Now, we could get away with a small blank because our car is going to be less than 210. It really doesn't matter as you're building this what you like to do. So once you've chosen that, hit apply. Okay, now the position inputs here, the ground clearance is where from the bottom of the block to your axle hole, what your distance is going to be there. So your ground clearance is how much is underneath of the car itself, and that's based on wheel size. Your wheel base is the distance from the front axle to the back axle, and then the position of the rear axle is relative to the back of the car itself. And those are explained out here in the help area. Each of those values, you can change those, input those right here. Okay, now we're going to actually create the shape, and this is the trickiest part, I think, of the whole design end of things. In sketching profiles up here, follow these steps so you get the hang of what's involved here. Under the body section, we're going to click on upper profile. We're going to show a picture of what that profile is for this particular short car, and we're going to display the back and front axle. So you come down here and click on that eye right there, and you click on the eye for, that's our front axle, click on the eye for our rear axle right here. And so you see those holes appearing in there. Now what we're going to do is clear this sketch out by selecting this trash can right there. Okay, and that clears that. And we're going to follow these steps to try to match the profile here. Now, I did keep a short blank car, and in doing that, I realized the short blank car is actually shorter than the design that we need. So you are going to want to work with a larger blank, because this is 20 centimeters long, and our car cannot be any less than 21. So this is actually too short. However, I can continue my demonstration with this. Again, make sure you have a large blank and not a short blank as you're moving through. Okay, now to draw a profile, you are going to be making little dots on the screen. We're following step 6 right here. I want to highlight, this is so important. You must start at the rear of the blank and begin on the outside of the rear face of the edge to put this. So basically we're trying to produce this sketch using these tools right here. So we have those two selected right there, and we're going to select, remember we need at least 3 millimeters from our CO2 hull, but we're going to select positions on the screen, and let's put the one here, and then our last one will be down here on the front. So more or less, that's the shape that we are trying to achieve right there. Now this is considered a rough shape, so you're kind of roughing it in. If we wanted to smooth this out, what we'll end up doing is taking the spline right there, and you see that our curve now has become a little more of a gradual curve. pay attention to where your line is relative to the end of the power plant chamber. You might have to adjust things there. So for the time being, we'll accept this sketch, and we're simply going to say apply and then say done. Okay, so our upper profile has been defined. We can easily go back and change and modify this later, but we're going to work through this tutorial here. Now we need to define the lower profile of the body. So coming over here to lower profile, we're going to make it visible, and we're going to click the wrench right there. Okay, and again, it's a similar process. We'll delete what's there. We're going to clear the existing sketch. We're going to use the same tools. Again, you must start at the rear of the blank and begin on the outside rear face of the blank itself. This is so important. Start back here. You're not going to get the results otherwise that you're trying to achieve. Okay, our goal here is to create a profile fairly similar to this one as we go through and draw that. So let's see if we can try that out. We're going to delete the sketch itself. We start out with our rough sketching tools here. So we're going to click dots on the screen. Keep in mind where my axle hole is. I showed my axle hole. So there's that dot there. Make sure you're on the outside. I'm going to click this dot here. I'm going to come down to the bottom of my car right there. I'm going to come across. And I might come back up here. And I'm going to achieve a shape that comes in this direction. Drops down there, and then maybe I'll have that just finish off to the end of my car over here. Okay, so there's my rough sketch, and then I'll click the spline tool, and that kind of smooths it out, gives it a little more of a curve or a contour as I'm looking at trying to modify that. Okay, now we're going to modify some points here. Sketch features they're calling it in the tutorial there. In moving these points, this icon right here allows us to move points, and this icon right here allows us to delete points. And let's just say in their example they wanted us to pull this point up real high like that. Okay, and maybe you like that. Maybe that's something that does appeal to you. But that would move the point. Let's say we want to get rid of that point. We can just click on that, and that point ends up disappearing. If you want to get that back, you want to undo it, just click on that and you can undo that. So you can play around with your shape either way you go, figure out what you like. So, perhaps I want to move this point a little bit higher, and maybe I want to move this point, my axle is right there. So manipulate your shape, get it to be what you would like it to be. And consider the forces that are going to act upon this profile here. So when you're happy with what you got, apply, say done. Okay, and here's the side profile of my car. So now we're ready to create the top profile. Let's hide our lower, upper and lower profiles of our side of a car. We're going to then click on top profile, make that viewable. We're going to click this little wrench here. Now notice the blank of the car moves, so we're into a top profile here, and we see some similar tools here defined out. Now paying attention to where my axle holes are actually running through the car and where the width of my car is, this is a design that I would want to change. So I'm going to go ahead and clear this design out. Very similar to as we have done before, we're going to start in the rear of the car, start by adding points. So maybe I want my rear to be very narrow here. I'm going to click here. I'll pull out and click here. Maybe I'll come wide here. This is the wide part of the car. And then my axles come in here. And then I'll bring it back in. And maybe I want to go with a narrow rail car like this. And perhaps I'm going to bring this back out like that. And then I can taper it down to an end profile right here. So there's my top profile. In the tutorial they have you doing a slightly different shape, kind of similar to what I have here, but you can follow through their steps there as you learn this drawing tool. Don't forget to hit apply and say done when you're finished with that. Okay, now we're ready to put our two profiles together and refine the body shape of this. So first thing we'll do is we'll turn that top profile off, and let's reset our car view. So we're kind of looking at it on this isometric angle here. And we're now going to do a refine solid. So I want to first make it visible and bring out the tool here. We can change the roundness of our edges here with these fillet tools right here. And so the tutorial there is recommending us go with a roundness of 5. We can go from 1 to 10. And if you want to change your bottom roundness in the same, we can do that way and see what that looks like. If you even want to change the color of your car, maybe you want a bronze colored car, you hit apply, and there those changes all came in. And notice these edges here got a lot more round, a little more of a fillet there. So play around with those tools. A great way of refining your shape. One of the things that you want to take note of, you see you're done here, take note of the axle and how far out it is sticking from the car. We're going to make this relative to the wheels, and in tutorial 1, when we talk about wheel placement, there are some considerations that we want to think about with regards to our wheels and length of the axles as we're going through the overall design of our car. Okay, the last section of the tutorial talks about refinements to our body shape and cutting wheel wells as we add wheels in here. So let's make our wheels visible. Here's our front wheels, and let's show our rear wheels. There they are there. Now you can see we got a lot of gap here. So that's something I can change in my axle length. If I pull my rear axle length up, I can make a change to the length of that axle right here. So do that and make sure you have the clearances you want, and actually probably bring that in just a little bit more with what I'm looking at. It's important that you have axles that are within specs. It's important that you also have the clearances that you want on your vehicle. Let's reset our view. This is what our car looks like right now with the current wheels that I have chosen for the car. It doesn't look very pretty here, but it does get the job done in terms of showing you some of the basic features. Okay, the final section I want to make note of that is in the tutorial but is not in this year's TSA standards has to do with body features. Okay, so this section doesn't apply to you. It is a pretty neat section. We could incorporate it in. It basically allows us to create wheel cutouts where we can reduce the friction on the axle. So you can see that right here where the cutouts are being applied and internal wheels are being applied. Make sure then that it would stay within your specifications for your car. Unfortunately, we don't have the features section here in our work area, so this is something you're not going to be able to do in your design. Final thing I just want to point out, I did make a change to my front wheel type. This is the wheel that I have, stock wheel I have and give out in class. So if you want that wheel under front wheels, it's the WDR FW1 is the front wheel. And you choose from your list here of which wheels you're going to use, and you would then apply that accordingly and say done. That's kind of an overview highlight. Hopefully you get a base understanding here. Play around, manipulate your design. Good luck, and hope for the fastest car for you.